Dawn slid soft across the outermost edge of the farm, where a riot of wildflowers spilled in tangled colors over the oldest field. Poppies waved in the breeze, sunflowers stretched above the goldenrod, and violets thrived in the shade of forgotten apple trees. For years, neighbors had driven by with sideways glances. Windows rolled down just enough for opinions to drift out. "There's the patch she's wasted half her life on." Some muttered that nothing useful ever grew there, that the land should have turned a profit, or at least fed something besides bees and birds. Yet every season she knelt in the earth, coaxing bulbs and seeds into ground. Everyone else called lost. Over coffee in town, folks wondered if stubbornness had become a kind of spell, or if she was hiding sadness among the petals. A row of children pressed faces to a wire fence, daring each other to guess what she hoped to find. No one had an answer. All they saw was a blur of blooms in a world measured by yield, unaware that hidden in this wild, neglected place was the seed of a future that would someday turn their laughter into awe. The farm sat along a narrow road nestled between rolling hills whose green softened into yellow every August. Weathered barn boards painted 100 times glowed faintly pink in the waning light, and the air carried the scent of hay, rain, and the faded perfume of apple blossoms in spring. The oldest patch lay along the back fence, a tangle of earth just wide enough to remember a vanished orchard, just poor enough that even the boldest crops had long refused to grow. Every decade or so, some hopeful relative tried to plant corn or squash, each time meeting disappointment as stunted seedlings wilted under the thin, sandy soil. Old-timers joked that the patch was cursed, while younger voices called it a waste of good water and sunlight. Yet for the family, this land was memory-writ plain. Hands pricked by thistle, baskets of half-wild apples, childhood dreams scattered on summer winds. With the farm's future increasingly uncertain, bills piling up, markets shrinking, neighbors selling out the space the flowers claimed was either a stubborn act of devotion or an unforgivable luxury. If her experiment failed, it would mark the field and the farm for loss. But if it somehow grew into something more, it could change their fate in ways no one imagined. She began with a pocket full of seeds and a broken heart. The summer her father died and the world shrank to quiet meals and chores done in silence. He had been the one to walk her past the old fence, pointing out wild asters when she was small, promising that beauty slipped between weeds if you looked close and long enough. After his funeral, with the rest of the farm asleep, she'd slipped outside, scattering the first handful of poppy seeds in the dirt where he once knelt. She told no one, afraid her gentle act would be mistaken for foolishness or denial. But the next spring, color spilled over the field, and with each blossom she felt his absence soften into something she could hold through every loss: her mother's illness, lean winters, the slow fading of old family neighbors she kept planting. Daffodils, clover, marigold, each one mending a thread in her family's tangled legacy. What looked like idle wandering to the outside world was, for her, quiet rebellion, a promise that the small, unseen things mattered most and that patience was sometimes the only way to truly hold on to love. The years tumbled on, each one marked by new faces at the dinner table, urging her to till the patch under and plant something useful for a change. Uncles talked of hay, cousins plotted soybeans, and more than one neighbor offered to buy or lease the land for pennies on the acre. Banks sent warnings with polite language about idle assets, and at family holiday gatherings the subject of the flower patch always surfaced like an ache side glances cast, voices lowered to soften the implied insult. Even her own resolve sometimes faltered, especially after hail shattered a season's blooms or drought-curled petals brown before their time. In leanest years, when bills stacked high and hands split from work that never seemed to end, she'd hesitate on the edge of the field, wondering if hope had finally been weeded out. Yet every spring, she returned with trowel and seeds, coaxing color from hard ground as the world looked on, half in pity, half in anticipation of her surrender. Some called her foolish, others pitied her stubbornness, and still, rumors grew. Why wouldn't she give up? What did she know or wait for that kept her clinging to a place everyone else counted as lost? Change arrived quietly, disguised as curiosity. One autumn, after the first frost dusted the flower patch silver, a visitor in a battered car pulled to the gate, a botanist from the university, chasing rumors of something unusual on this forgotten stretch of land. What he found stunned even her. Nestled among the familiar wildflowers was a cluster of rare prairie orchids, their petals painted purple and gold. He ran gentle fingers along the stems, explaining how the patch's decades of neglect had, by luck or wisdom, preserved the delicate ecosystem that was vanishing everywhere else. News traveled fast. The botanist's photographs found their way into journals and local newspapers. Old college friends reached out. Town councils began to see the land not as wasted, but as precious. She remembered her father's soft lessons, the beauty of waiting, the riches found in caring for what others overlooked. For the first time, her patience was met not with doubt, but with awe. There was talk of grants, conservation programs, and tours, each conversation carrying possibility where reproach once grew. The field, silent for so many years, had at last found its champion, and within herself she felt a cautious, dazzling hope begin to unfurl. With the world's eyes suddenly turning to her wild patch, she seized the moment grants from the state helped her fence the fragile beds and put up signs to protect rare blooms from careless feet. She partnered with the local school, inviting classes to learn about pollinators and watch the seasons unfold in color. On weekends, she opened the gate for tours led by the botanist himself, sharing the history of the land and the hidden lives thriving there. Each month, letters arrived from researchers, organic seed companies, even travel magazines eager to spotlight what had, for a lifetime, been an embarrassment to her family. Tension grew, however, as the farm's finances still teetered on the edge. Every dollar earned from events or seed sales went straight into repairs or payroll. Some in town grumbled about crowds and traffic, and even her own kin worried she was careless with all the new attention. She risked everything on a summer fair, transforming her patch into a living showcase for flowers, local crafts, and farm-fresh honey. If she failed, so much patience and effort would be wasted in the brightest spotlight the farm had ever seen. But as volunteers arrived and the first visitors stepped through the worn gate, she recognized a new feeling. Pride, sharpened by fear, racing together toward whatever would bloom next. By late July, the once dismissed patch blazed with color orchids, black-eyed Susans, and golden coneflowers woven into living tapestries. Local news crews set up cameras beside picnic tables covered in wild bouquets, while university vans ferried groups of students and botanists from across the state, eager to walk the same rows townsfolk had once mocked. Visitors snapped photos, marveled at the pollinators, and filled notebooks with sketches. Social media posts went viral, attracting bloggers, garden clubs, and offers from high-end florists looking to buy rare stems for weddings and events. Farmers who once shook their heads now peered over fences, asking for advice and seed cuttings. Bank officers left their formal letters behind and visited in person. marveling at the lines of tour buses and the local vendors bustling around a patch that had supposedly been a waste of land. Her family gathered under the shade of apple trees, passing lemonade and watching the world celebrate what patience and faith had grown. Even the sharpest doubters, from distant cousins to old friends, stood humbled, unable to deny the fortune that flowers had brought. Where for decades there had been questions and ridicule, there was now applause, transformation, and the quiet satisfaction of having believed in beauty in herself long before anyone else could see it. As the rush of visitors slowed and the patch settled into late summer calm, the old farm found a new rhythm. Family suppers were louder now, laughter echoing in the kitchen as pride softened old tensions, and stories grew brighter in the telling. The local bakery used wild violets for cake decorations, and neighboring farms sent their kids to help with seed gathering. Each generation's hands learning, sharing, and growing wiser together. She walked the fields daily, teaching children how to spot rare blooms and explaining that value isn't always measured by profit or speed. In quiet hours, she wrote in a weathered notebook future plans, new seeds to try, wisdom she hoped would outlast her. The money that once trickled in now flowed enough to repair fences, repaint the barn, and pay a few loyal workers all year round. But it was the peace she found in her own work, the deep satisfaction that beauty and patience, so often doubted, had made everything whole again that mattered most. With every blossom and every grateful handshake, she quietly celebrated the life she had nurtured from a patch of earth the world called worthless. Some fortunes are measured not in money, but in the patience to believe when every voice says you're wrong. It takes a special kind of strength to see a field's hidden promise, to keep working soil others have written off, and to love the beauty that grows in overlooked places. Her story is proof that what the world dismisses as a waste today might be tomorrow's miracle, a field that teaches, a bloom that heals, or a legacy that outlasts storms. Every meadow of wildflowers, every old orchard, every battered plot has a story waiting for someone patient enough to tend it. As folks around here say, sometimes it takes a lifetime for the earth to give up her secrets. If you've ever held on to a dream that others called foolish, if you found treasure in something everyone else overlooked, we want to hear from you. Share your memories, your wildest garden, or the hope that keeps you digging, planting, and believing. Tell us where you're watching from and what beauty you found in unlikely corners. Subscribe and join our circle of rural storytellers, where every seed can become a story, and every story might just change someone's field or their future.